All right, guys, happy Saturday. So we just wrapped up our EDM sports opportunity. Thank you for those of you that still contributed and submitted your revisions. Really had fun. A lot of great new tracks got added to the album here at the very end. So if I ask for your stems, please send them to me right away again. 44K, 24-bit waves. They need to have 5 or 6 dB of headroom, so give me some space to be able to crank them up louder. You don't have to necessarily disable all of your mastering plugins, only if they if they're actually adding significantly to the overall quality of your track. Leave them enabled. I don't want you to completely disable something that's making your track really stand out. But as far as your limiter or your ad limiter, whatever you have cranking up the volume, give me headroom on that. Maybe disable that, or maybe just crank down your levels on that so that I have some space to actually increase with your track. So I'm here with Trevor is joining us today, and we're going to talk about briefs. So briefs are essentially the little description you're going to get from either a music library or a music supervisor or anybody who's definitely at least looking for music. And if you guys have been a part of the syndicate, you know that every month the pinned post in the Facebook group is essentially just that. It's a brief. Now, that is a more detailed brief than you'll probably ever receive ever in this industry. You're getting a very detailed brief because not only do I write out in detail what kind of instruments you should be using, what the style is, what the emotional tone should be. I give you reference tracks. I try to give you as many as I possibly can, so you have a bunch of different creative spots to kind of get inspired from. And then I also obviously create a basically 20 or 30-minute video where I'm walking you through the reference files and I'm telling you, this is why I like this track. This is why this track is great. This is why this works. Music libraries and supervisors, they don't take that kind of time to do that. They will probably just write out an email to you or maybe a quick phone call and talk to you about what they're looking for. But Trevor had a great idea about walking through some of his actual briefs that he's gotten from music supervisors to kind of talk about like what are some of the pitfalls, what are the common things that you normally find, and how to make sure that you nail it, how you actually completely blow away the client so that they're not going like, what is this track? Why'd you send me this? This has nothing to do with what I was looking for. And this has been a common thing that I've noticed with some of the opportunities I provided you guys, that especially with the EDM one, I'm getting some submissions that they sound like, maybe it sounds like an 80s track, or maybe it sounds more like an electronic rock track, or maybe way too orchestral. It doesn't really have enough of the EDM kind of dance world in it. So nailing the references and nailing what people are looking for, that's part of that service mentality that we have to get really good at if we're going to get the contract and nail the gig over and over again. So anyways, without further ado, Trevor, if you want to just walk us through some of your experiences getting briefs and how it works on your end when you're composing for them, and some of the common things that you see in that area.
Yeah. So in my other job, I actually work with a lot of supervisors, and get other people's music and kind of take a brief from a supervisor, find other people's music and give it to that supervisor, and or my own music. And in doing that all the time, I've come across every different type of music supervisor and what they, not every type, but a lot of different types of music supervisors and what they do. And there's some that they send a YouTube link and they're like, do you have something like this? And that's it. They're just straightforward. Send me something like this. I need something like that. And then you have some that are a lot more descriptive, and then you have everything in between, right? The one thing that I've noticed though with the idea of nailing the reference is a music supervisor's job, from what I understand now, is they're like the mediator between the creative and the director. And they're trying to take whatever the words and ideas that director is trying to come across, they're trying to translate it to all the creative, all the music and all that stuff. And so that's what their brief ends up being, is this kind of sometimes vague, sometimes super specific, but it's just their translation of what the director wants. And so you have to kind of, as the person with the music, you have to kind of try and figure out, okay, what is she trying to tell me that the director's trying to say? Because at the end of the day, he makes the decision of what is going into the episode or the movie or whatever. And so when reading briefs, one of the things that, it's hard to do a lot of the times, but try to pick up the little nuances that they're really getting across. So I pulled up a brief that I just got last week, and there's an easy mistake I could have made, but I read the brief and realized, okay, this don't do what I initially thought to do. She gave an example, a YouTube video of a Stevie Wonder song, Village Ghetto Land. And it's this slow ballad, weird keyboard thing. And he's singing a slow song, but the lyrics are about like social injustice in the Black community. And if I were to just listen to the reference and go, okay, I'm going to send her a slow song with a Stevie Wonder sounding dude, not even considering the lyrical content, she's just going to say no, because maybe it sounds like the reference, but it isn't what the director wants. The whole point of the piece of music is not Stevie Wonder sounding. The whole point of the piece of music is a commentary on what's happening in the show, which a couple lines down is why I changed my mind, is there's a note which says, song will be played as a background source in a dinner as the group discusses a controversial police shooting. Now I know, okay, the song lyrics are what's most important, but it's a dramatic moment, so I can't have like a pop tune talking about it. So I got to kind of figure it out, right? Now that I've kind of decoded a little bit, that's now how I approach. Now I go to music that either I have or somebody I know has and go, do you have anything with the social message? Is it kind of mellow? Because the scene's kind of, they're in a restaurant, it's nighttime or whatever. Does it fit all of that I've gathered in this brief? Trying to do that and understand that will really help, because if I would have just said, oh, here's the YouTube video. Oh, okay, here's 5 songs that sound like that song. She would have listened to a couple of them and moved on, and I would have never got it.
So that's interesting. So like the importance of not just rushing into your productions, but actually really trying to pay attention. And for you, you had to really kind of read between the lines, even though they did say like it's about the specific theme lyrically. Or actually they didn't say that. They were talking about the specific scene that this would be played under. You had to put 2 and 2 together to realize why it was the Stevie Wonder track that they loved. So that is one of those things where a lot of times you do have to kind of read between the lines. You can try to ask for more specifics, but like you said, in that situation, which is kind of interesting because I don't come across those that often. That's a really powerful thing to be aware of, though, where they're kind of going, musically, they're kind of flexible. They're like, it could be this, it could be hip hop, it could be kind of old, slow music or whatever. But really, it's just about that theme of struggle and strife and searching for justice and all that kind of stuff, which is a very, you can just think about that now. That is a specific, it almost has a specific sound to it, but it can go into many different genres. Yep. But that idea of seeking, sort of justice or whatever has a specific feel and vibe to it. And you know exactly what it is when you find it. So that's pretty interesting. One thing that I've found a lot of times is that there are a music supervisor, if they're good, are musicians themselves, and they'll know how to translate what the director is saying, and they'll convey it instantly to you. But some music supervisors are terrible, and they literally just reiterate. They're just like a talking parrot. Director says this, and I'll ask, well, what does that mean? I don't know. The director says that, and that's as far as they can give me. They don't really know what that means. But the big, I guess, breakdown in communication that a lot of times I have found is that when there's a director or the creator of some sort of piece of content and they want something, a lot of times they're not musicians. They don't have musicians lingo. So they'll use phrases that are very vague and don't really mean anything. Like they'll say something like, I really want this cinematic piece of music at the very end to really do this cool thing. And I'm like, cinematic? That is, it's somewhat specific because you mean orchestral, but cinematic, you could have an EDM track that's very cinematic. You can have, to me, cinematic to me just means epic, huge, a lot of emotion, right? There's just a lot of stuff going on with it. It's not minimal. It's not upbeat and happy. It's not like, depressed and sad and slow, but, it can mean a lot of different things, actually. So I find that there's always a disconnect between the communication. So a lot of times that's why I always ask if it's very vague and they don't really know what they're saying. Like even when we did, we recently did that Christmas gig in the Syndicate. Initially what they had said was, we want a cool R&B pop track for this. And I was like, we talking Mariah Carey? We talking, I don't, R&B pop, Chris Brown? Where are we going? How old? How new? That is just way too big. And the more that I kind of got talking to him, the more he had to go back to the director and go, okay, well, we'll get some references in there. And finally, in that brief, when you guys downloaded that, you saw the references they provided, the things that they liked. So that's one of those things where I had to push back and go, you got to give us more than that, man. Like R&B pop, we're not going to hit it. We're just not going to nail it because I don't really know what they mean by that. That's such a big, broad thing. So a lot of times they have an idea, an assumption that like if I just say R&B pop, oh, these are producers, they know what I mean. And a lot of times you don't. So a lot of times you do need to go back and push on them. Have you had situations like that where they do give you very vague parameters and you push back asking for things?
Yeah, it's a this topic is a little bit of my beef with with music supervisors. A lot of the times is sometimes I don't know if they overwork themselves or they just pick a lot of projects or whatever, but there is not a lot of time sometimes with some supervisors for them to keep going back and forth. So sometimes you have to like kind of understand the supervisor and be like, you know what, they're not going to respond. They never do. So I'm just gonna have to try and figure it out. But then some of them you can, and it's good to ask because then they know that they know two things. They know that you're interested and you really want to give them the product that they're trying to get. But then they know in the future they can come to you because there's other times where the other side is also the problem where they're asking composers, hey, do you have something like this, something like this? And then the composer can kind of be iffy about it. And so sometimes they're nervous too. So if you can build a type of communication between a supervisor to where they feel comfortable talking to you and you feel comfortable talking to them and kind of honing in what they want, like they're just going to go to you. I mean, that's kind of true in all business, but especially for this, because then they don't have to worry about wasting time on stuff that doesn't fit. Because that's most of their job a lot of the times is like wasting time hearing stuff that they don't need to hear. And so if somebody can come along and go, most of the time we just talk about it and we figure it out, then they won't even worry about anybody else because they don't want to sift through 100 tracks and then finally find the one in there somewhere that kind of works.
No, that's really powerful stuff. And, I also want to talk about the importance. We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago in the group, that if you say you're going to do something, you want to be the person in this business that just delivers results. Like you don't want to deliver excuses. Don't be the guy that emails them on the deadline and say, sorry, I only got one track done. I know I said I'd do 3, but I only got 1. Do not deliver excuses to anybody. I learned this, I think, from one of my professors in college. He made a really good point about that if you're constantly delivering excuses, you're going to be just basically completely ignored in the future because you're going to be annoying at that point. That all you do is provide problems, right? That's all you're ever delivering. You're delivering a problem, and the problem is you didn't get the work done. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. And I know I was harping on some of you guys in the group that you'd said you were going to contribute and you didn't. But it's a lesson learned that like when you say yes, for sure, I'm in, count me in. Like you need 2 tracks, you need 1 track by this day, cool, I'm there. Even if it's not the best track you ever did and you're not that thrilled about it, submit it. You've got to throw down what you say you're going to do. You want to be the person that solves problems and delivers product. That's how you sort of build up your reputation. What Trevor was talking about is, building up a relationship with a music supervisor. Well, if you're always the one that not only, and this is like bonus points, but not only delivers what you say you will, but over delivers. So let's say you got 1 cue you got to do by, you got a week to do it. Try to do 2, right? Nail 1 and make sure you take your time, get it right. If you got like 2 days to burn before it's due, start on that second one, get a second one done and be like, hey, just so you know, I decided to knock out 2. I thought maybe I'd give you a couple of options. Nobody's going to be mad at having a couple more options than they thought they would have. Like Trevor was saying, like a supervisor has to please their client, which is typically the director. So if they only get 1 cue from you and it's like, I hope this works, they feel much more comfortable going like, oh, I got a couple of things. Maybe you give them 3 cues. And so you're going to be the one that really makes their lives easier. You're going to give them a sense of ease, that their anxiety can go down a little bit because you gave them more than they even wanted. Or even better, deliver it to them on Thursday. If they want it on Friday, shoot it over to them Thursday and shoot them a little email saying, hey, just wanted to let you know I delivered early, just so you can, take a listen before you submit it off. If there's any last minute changes you want to do, just let me know. I'm around, I'm available. Again, you want to be the problem solver. What was that? What was the character in Pulp Fiction? The Fox? What was his name? The guy who solved problems?
Yeah. Who's the actor too? I have it all in my mind. I just can't remember his name.
Hilarious,
he rolls up he cleans up everything. Yeah.
He's like, whatever his line was, like, I got off the, you guys are probably yelling at your computer screens because you guys know it, but he's like, I'm here to solve problems. That's what I do. I solve problems. You call me and your problems get solved. Of course, he's talking about like selling and cleaning up crimes. Yeah. But literally, you need to have that kind of gangster mentality. Like, I solve problems. You got music you need, you call on me, and you're going to get your problem solved. If you guys haven't read that book, 48 Laws of Power, one of the laws is basically about exactly that, as far as getting and becoming very useful to people in power. So a music supervisor has a lot of power because they can decide basically whose song they're going to pitch to the director. Ultimately, the director gets to decide what goes in. But, music supervisors are people you really want to become really good friends with, and they want to really like you. In order for them to like you and want you to be around, you got to be providing them with constant value and making their lives easier and completely making them look like heroes to their clients, right? So again, this kind of always ties back to why I was just completely obsessed with the word service in my master course, because you got to be serving somebody. And the more that you can serve and not deliver disclaimers, right? Some of you guys submitted tracks and you're like, all right, well, this is my track, but it's not really mixed or mastered yet. That's this sort of bad habit of getting into, like, you want to throw disclaimers on your track and say, like, hey guys, I hope the director likes it. Just so you know, I'm not that happy with the drums either. Don't worry about that. Well, it's not ready to be submitted yet. Okay. So you shouldn't be having disclaimers attached to your tracks when you send them. You should send it and go like, there you go. Enjoy. Hopefully one of those are going to serve you, but they are ready to go. Mixed, mastered, fully produced. I over-delivered. I delivered early, whatever. I'm the problem solver, right? I'm the guy that comes and takes care of your problem. So anyways, rant over. What do you think, man?
Well, there's a few things you touched on. One, on the quick one, yeah, the disclaimers are very tempting, but they do make you look weak. So be careful with those, and you might even point out something that they were probably might not have noticed, like, oh, I don't like the snare though, or whatever. And then they're like, yeah, you know what? Neither do I. Skip, Let's see, what were the other thing? He had a bunch of stuff in there.
Being useful and being the person.
Yeah, that's right. So these music supervisors, I don't know if they know it or not, but they have a lot of power. And I've noticed that there are times when they're not stressed out and they're doing something small, and you were there for them during that time, right? So there have been plenty of music supervisors where I've done something either like for super cheap or maybe even free, or whatever, on this idea that, okay, this is like laying groundwork so that they think of me when the big thing comes along. And I can't stress that enough. There were plenty of things where maybe they don't think that they can, what was the example? There was an example recently where a music supervisor I was working with, they're like, well, we don't really have the budget to pay for something custom, but we need a little hip hop piece in here. Do you have something laying around that we can just quickly license? And after listening to the reference and what they wanted, I was like, I don't have anything laying around, but I'll just make it. You didn't approach this as like a custom thing, so don't worry about it. I'll just make it and we'll just call it a normal license and we'll do it that way. And they were just like, really? They were expecting that, like, if they were to say, make something new from scratch, then they would cost a whole bunch more. And it wasn't a big deal. It was like a basic hip hop track. They didn't want vocals, so I'm like, yeah, afternoon, knock it out and send it to you. Everyone's happy. Now, down the road, a much bigger gig comes along and they think of me first because I was there helping them out, providing solving a problem,
That's it. Yeah. I had made that video probably a couple months back, where I'd said that that's the whole reason why you don't want to pass up on the smaller gigs. So the smaller gigs, like, not every gig you get is the big, massive, wow, huge payout, big, public placement or whatever. It's, a lot of the stuff you're going to do is like, hey, I can give you $200 for this track, or I can give you 500 maybe, or whatever. It's going to be under $1,000. A lot of the custom opportunities you might get. And so you might think like, well, and some of them might have no back end attached to them. And it's just like, you're going to spend a day, you knock it out, you get $200. It's not a bad rate of pay. I'm not going to complain about it. But again, not the biggest, sexiest, oh my gosh, amazing and incredible. However, if you're new in this business, you cannot afford not to take that gig. You just can't. Like, you have to go in there and make sure that they know you're hungry enough, you're ready to go, because when that $10,000 queue comes through, or $5,000 queue, or whatever it is, or just even massive opportunity for back end royalties, Trevor's absolutely right. They're going to remember the guy or the girl that was ready to work, that was hungry, that came through for them when nobody else really wanted to. And trust me, we notice, those of us that offer opportunities, we're noticing who's hardworking, who kind of gets to pick and choose. I don't know, maybe not. It makes a difference. I want to say it's just all about the quality of your music. It's not. Personality means a lot. The strength of your brand as a composer. If a library or a supervisor thinks that you're a little bit snooty and you're only going to, I'm above that, I'm not going to take that gig. How do you think they're going to feel about you, right? Moving forward. So you got to be the hungriest producer on their label. You got to be the one that's always like, I'm here for you. What do you guys need? What are your needs this week? What are your needs this month? Let me help. Let me figure out how I can make your guys' lives easier. You're being the hungry person. Yes, it means obviously also that you need to look out for yourself. Don't get taken advantage of. There are companies out there that will take advantage of somebody that's eager to work. So you do need to obviously watch out for your rider share, watch out for your sync fees, your upfront fees. Watch your contracts, make sure your stuff is actually showing up and getting registered properly, right? Be smart, don't get taken advantage of. But, you know, you got to be hungry. And if you really want to do this full time, you got to pay your dues. It's just one of those things, like we can't just jump, 18 different levels and just immediately be in the pockets of these really powerful people handing us thousands and thousands of dollars. You got to work your way up to that point where you have those kind of opportunities in front of you. And in order to do that, you got to be the hungriest producer in the room.
Oh yeah, I mean a perfect example of that is of the sometimes you may not even be the best, but you do, they like you better or whatever it is, you provide better. There was a gig that I've done, it was about a year ago, and I was like, stressing because I heard the other submissions. I was like, mine, I don't think mine's good enough, but I'm gonna keep working at it. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna, it's 1 a.m, I'm just sending it off, and I send it off, and I get an email back like 2 minutes later, and it's the client. They're like, you're done? I mean, you're up right now? And I was like, yeah, I was working on it, but I mean, here you go. Hope you like it. And they're like, okay, well, the other people we can't get a hold of, and we're trying to like rush, and me and the editor are up really late. Can you? You're the only one we can hold of really right now. Can you change yours this way and this way? And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm not going to bed. So then, we go back and forth a few times, and sun comes up, and I got the job because I was the only one around. I mean, it was kind of lucky because it's like, it's understandable that everybody was asleep, but
I
was there.
And a little bit, not exactly luck, because you provided a system of being the hungriest person. So again, this kind of comes back to lucky, I guess, that situation happened, but it's not luck because you've built in this sort of like work habit and work ethic of I'm here to work. I'm here to take as long as it takes to get this thing done. So having that mindset and having that availability and that work ethic, it's just a matter of time before an opportunity like that will arise. So it's not really luck. Maybe luck would be just the time it happened, but the fact that opportunities like that will keep happening for you is not luck at all. This is actually, you're creating your own success by doing that, by creating a sort of like a net in front of you of like, I'm the hungriest, hardest working person I know. So as you just go through the industry, guess what? This person notices it, then this person, then that person, then that person. You build this whole network of people who get caught in that net of going, wow, Trevor's the guy that's up at 1 a.m. when we need him. And then you get a massive network of great, powerful people that keep looking at you. So I don't really believe, there is definitely an element of luck. Don't get me wrong. I mean, some of us get opportunities that are bigger than others. Some of us get bigger placements than others. You can't really control that stuff. That's just life. You wake up, sometimes you're not feeling good. Sometimes you are feeling good. But in terms of like just being able to be doing this full time, I really kind of don't buy the luck thing anymore. I maybe when I was younger, maybe bought it a little bit more, but I really do think you create your own wave in this business. It's really about how you work, how hungry you are, and how available you are for opportunities like that.
Yeah, I guess, luck would be the wrong term, the wrong phrase or whatever. But the point of that was that the moment that I got the email and they responded, and I was sitting there like, I was going to go to bed. Like, I didn't think like, let me see if I can, see if they're going to, still be working on it in the morning and go to bed. Like there was none of that. It was straight up like, I knew at that moment too, that like, if I respond and tell them that I'll work right now, they're going to love that. And, and it kind of makes me look good. Like it just, all in all, I just kind of knew this is what I need to do to land this and to look good for the future. And so that's what I did. But I know for a fact, I've been in other situations where other people I've seen do that, where they're like, all right, I'm going to bed. And then they email something. And then it's like, wait, we need one change real quick. And they're like, I already shut down my computer, and it's like, well, all right, well, and then later you can tell like when that person's brought up again, other people are like, well, that one time you kind of left us hanging.
There you go. That's exactly right. That's why you got to always be there for them. So yeah, man, that's really powerful stuff. Well, I think we covered what I wanted to talk about today. That's essentially what I wanted to get across to you guys. So obviously, take it from Trevor. Trevor's been dealing with this industry for about as long as I have. So he knows exactly how it works to be nailing those references. And I know for some of you guys, it's tricky, especially if it's a genre that you're not comfortable with and you're not really familiar with. But I definitely think that most of you guys that had issues with that when we started this opportunity, basically about a month and a half ago, you got a lot better this time towards the end of this gig. I remember from earlier today when I did my review video, just listening to a lot of those tracks. I'm like, maybe you didn't quite get there, but you're miles ahead of where you were before. I mean, the first track some of you guys produced were really like out in left field. They weren't even close to what I was looking for. And now at least they're in the arena. There still needs to be a little bit of improvement, but hey, that is how you get to the point of nailing the references, is you get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little closer every single time, until you finally start nailing these things. And that's really what the Syndicate is about. It's giving you guys sort of real world practice in terms of how to nail the references. A lot of producers, again, they're not used to this kind of world. They just used to, I feel like making this kind of track, and then they just come up with a bunch of cool sounds and then they put together a track. In this business, a lot of it has to do with, hey, I want something like this. You have to kind of pause your ego a little bit and you have to get into the mindset of what do they want. And it's really fun though when you can nail it and you completely do exactly what they want and you gave them some solid music. It's one of the best feelings to know. And Trevor can tell you that when a music supervisor says, "Oh my God, you're the best," like the director loved it, they can't wait to put it in the film or whatever. Even then, when I got my text from Tim yesterday letting us know that one of Art's tracks got placed in that Lifetime movie, he was like, one of the it was a music supervisor that came running up to him at the what was it, the PMA conference that happened in early October, and the guy was jumping up and down going, I can't, like, I mean, this guy heard this track probably a couple of times and looked through the library, still remember the track name, knew it was called Dreadful Escalator, came up to Tim going, oh my gosh, I love that track, I love the name of that. He said even the name of that track really got him excited and got him to listen to it. We're going to talk about that, about like, tricks to kind of name your tracks to get them to pop off the screen, maybe above other tracks. In fact, Tim and I are probably going to talk about that either today or tomorrow. But people getting excited about your music is really how you're going to really stand out, because now Art and his music is standing out in the mind of this music supervisor. And it's a beautiful feeling when you get that sort of satisfaction of knowing that somebody needed something specific from you, you deliver it to them right away, and then they continuously come back to you over and over again. It's really how you're going to get your TV shows and your numbers up to the point where it's just, you can't believe how many times your music is being aired on TV, but you got to do it consistently day after day. So thank you so much, Trevor. I appreciate your input today, man.
Yeah, I have one last thing if I could interject it. One thing that it's something that I need to or that I'm always trying to tell myself to work on too. And it's studying, right? So this when you're doing a pitch and let's say you don't get it, right? You don't land the search, or somebody's asking for music and you don't land it. Try to follow it and see what did land, and then take everything they told you, what you sent them, and then what they did pick, and try and figure out why. And that will, because there's so many times where you don't understand why. You're like, what, mine was really dope. It was a lot like the example, whatever. Why did they pick something else? And trying to figure that out is really going to help you in the future. And it's going to happen. You're going to constantly be told no or not picked or whatever. So try and figure out why, so that it's less and less every time. Because once I started doing that, it really helped understanding.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I do want to always let people know publicly which tracks I chose for my opportunity. So you guys can actually even go through the comments and go find. All you got to do is look for the hashtag "Send Me the Stems." You know that track made it onto the album. If the composer still has the track up online, it's up to them if they take it down or not. But immediately afterwards, these review videos, you can always go up and just look through the comments and find out, okay, well, why did theirs get on and mine didn't? And you can obviously watch the review videos. That's exactly what we're doing there, is doing that. So that's really, really important. And, with the caveat really is also, though, that you can get on the reference entirely, completely. And sometimes it's just a matter of taste. Like sometimes a music supervisor or director just likes somebody else's track that's just whatever. It sounds better to their ears. It's cool. I don't know. Some of that stuff is really just out of your hands. You can't do much about it. But like Trevor said, though, it is really important to see if you can follow up and find out. So what was it about all those other tracks that were getting onto this opportunity or this album that mine weren't? And why didn't mine go on there? And really A/B, test your way. And obviously, if you can, use those as references in the future to go okay, well, this is a track that's been placed, that's actually been accepted, it's been paid for. Actually going on TV, or at least going into a library. Mine better be on this par. It better be on par with that track. I better be on that quality. So it's using those. That's why for me, a lot of times what I'll do when I'm looking for references is I'll go to music libraries. I'll actually go online to what's getting circulated out there right now. What are these new libraries going for? You guys know I talk about Extreme Music a lot. I just like to use their platform. I think it's really easy to use, easy to find their music. And so sometimes that's what I'm doing. I'm going for what's going on in the industry right now. I want to be on par so that when you get some music from me, it's undeniable. You have to say yes, or you have to at least give it a second listen. You can't just go, no, thanks, we're not interested. Even if you have my genre, even if you have something that I'm offering, it's going to be on par with everything else going on in the business, that you can't afford to just go, I don't know if we really need this. I want to make my pitch undeniable. In order to do that, I use reference tracks from stuff that's actually getting placed. So good words of wisdom to end on there. Thank you so much, Trevor. And thank you guys so much for your EDM stuff. Get those stems to me, the last few of you that I'm looking for. I would like to get those mixed, if I can, by this weekend. So please, if you can do it today or tomorrow, send me those stems, and then I'm going to get together a sort of a pitching package and start sending it out to the first library that I wanted to really pitch to. And we'll see, give them some time to see if they respond. If not, I have a couple of other follow-up ideas I'd like to do. So get those to me right away. Thanks, you guys.